Maimon begins with the words Bereshit bara Elikim Eis hashamayim ve'eis haaretz. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. The Rebbe would say that this verse is a reminder that not only God created the world in the beginning, but He continues to create the world every day. And He is totally the master over creation. And therefore, He watches over us and protects us. And He is totally in the one upon whom to rely. Bereshit bara Elikim Eis hashamayim ve'eis haaretz. Omar Azal, our rabbis tell us, Omar Rabbi Yitzchak. Rabbi Yitzchak says, in truth, the Torah is not a history book. The Torah is a book of lesson, of teaching. And therefore, the Torah should have begun with the words of the first mitzvah that God gave the Jewish people. And that is the mitzvah of HaChodesh Alechem. The first mitzvah that God commanded the Jewish people is to establish for yourself a calendar. And on this calendar to place all the holidays for the year. And therefore, every 30 days or 29 and a half days, when the moon is reborn, you have a new month. This is the Chodesh. This is the meaning of Chodesh, which means month, which means renewal of the moon. So this concept, by the way, of month that we find in the secular calendar, the Gregorian calendar, is actually a borrowed term from the lunar calendar, from our calendar, because month means moon. The Gregorian calendar that we use in America is based on the sun. It only has 4 seasons. The concept of a 30-day cycle is really attributed to the moon. And this is what God told the Jewish people to do. The very first mitzvah in Egypt, make for yourself a calendar. What is the reason it started with the word Bereshit? Why did the Torah begin with the beginning? God created heaven and earth. To give the Jewish people ammunition, to give the Jewish people strength. That if the nations of the world will tell the Jewish people, Atem, listim Atem, if they will tell the Jewish people, you are thieves. The nations of the world will tell the Jews, you are thieves. But you have conquered the land of the 7 nations. You have taken over the land of Israel. The Jewish people will now have the ammunition. They'll have the strength to respond to the nations, not to be afraid, to have a backbone, and to tell the nations of the world the following. The entire world belongs to God. He created the world. Hu bara, He created the world, and He gave it l'asher yasher b'yenav. And He gave it to whom He decided. But it was His will at the beginning. He gave it to the 7 nations that lived in the land of Canaan. And now, now His decision is not lamihim. He wants to take it away from them. Alone, He wants to give it to us. This is totally up to God. This is God's decision. So the reason the Torah begins with Bereshit bara Elikim is why to tell us the whole world belongs to God and He gave us the land of Israel. Believe it or not. This is so timely at this time. However, we need to analyze the statement of Rabbi Yitzchak. Why does it mean the Torah should have began with the words, the new month? This new month is to you. Why? Because this really represents the entire theme and the entire objective of the giving of the Torah and the creation of the universe. This month, this represents in Kabbalah, represents the unity of Soivev Mamala, of the all-encompassing light and the all-pervading light. In other words, the infinite light and the finite light. The unity of infinity and finity, which is really the purpose of creation. Because the word HaChodesh, this month, represents the concept of the moon, which is a receiver, which represents the concept of Malchus, kingship. According to Kabbalah, kingship is a receiver. It's the 10th of the attributes, because kingship receives all the 9 previous lights, all the 9 previous attributes. And this idea of Chodesh Ishtoi, which is the month of your wife. The wife represents the month, which is the concept of the all-pervading light, the light that goes into the vessels, the light that is internalized. Zehu in Gilui, this represents, and the word Zeh, this month Zeh represents revelation. As we know, when you are able to point your finger, look at this with your own eyes. It's black and white. Look. And you point with your finger, look. This represents the attributes of Yesod v'Zah, represents the attributes of the 6 attributes, which is called Zah, which is masculine, which is the concept of Soviv Kolam and the all-encompassing light. And now we're bringing together, a husband and wife, we're bringing together unity. The whole purpose of creation is unity, intimacy. Soviv Zah, Yichud, Soviv V'Malach Kolam, Pirush, Achodesh Hazeh, and that is the meaning of the verse. The Torah should have began with HaChodesh Hazeh, this month, the mitzvah of this month, the mitzvah to create the calendar. Why? That is, in other words, the objective of creation is that Mamale Kolamin, that in this world, in this finite world, a world of months, there should be the revelation of the infinite light. That in HaChodesh, in the finite world, in the everyday 24-hour day, you should have also the revelation of Hazeh, this, alluding to infinity. And therefore, rightfully so, the Torah should have began from these words. Because really, this is the objective of the entire Torah. And this is the purpose of Torah, to bring about a unity between the infinity and the finite. The entire purpose of Torah is intimacy, is to bring together husband and wife. Days. The concept of drawing down this infinite light through Torah, mitzvahs and mitzvahs, if you go back to the source of Torah, if you go back to the source of mitzvahs, it represents a light, not only a light of infinity, it's more than the light of infinity. It's called the light that existed before the contraction of creation. Before God concealed the light, before God contracted the light. As it says in the Kabbalistic book called Emek HaMelech, the Brias HaElamois, Hu Hoya Ayidei Tzimtzum Harishon Shahoya B'Arein Soif, V'Nisha Cholol L'Mokim Panu. As it says, that how did God create the world? God's light filled the entire world, filled the entire universe. And God made a black hole. He made an empty space. It's called a Mokim Panu. And then he contracted the light, the infinite light, and from there he brought into this globe, this empty space, as we call in Hebrew the Mokim Panu, the Cholol. He brought into this hole, he brought into this dark space a light, a little ray of light, a little ray of hope. And from this little ray of hope and this little ray of light, God created the entire universe, all the galaxies that we see today. Zehu Shvedish Savus. And this brought about the vessels, and the reality and the existence of all the worlds, not only the physical world down here, but all the 4 major worlds in Kabbalah, Atzilus and Bria and Yisir and Asiyah, and all the thousands of infinite worlds. As it says, there are no limit to how many worlds. All of these infinite worlds came from this ray of light that God brought into this black hole. And that is called Ma'aseh Bereishis. That is the concept of creation. Then it goes on to say after the first verse, in the beginning God created heaven and earth. It doesn't only mean the sky and the land. It means all the heavens all the infinite heavens, and all the infinite worlds of paradise, and the worlds of the angels, and the worlds of the souls, and the worlds of the Makava, of the holy chariot of God, all of these worlds were created with that word Bereshis in the beginning in one shot. However, it goes on to say, after he created the world, what did God do? He created Adam and Eve. And God placed them in paradise. They had to work the land and to protect the land. What does that mean? If you're in paradise, paradise is paradise. You don't do work in paradise. So it seems to be a contradiction of terms. God placed them in paradise to work and to protect it. They need to work. They need to be a soldier and protect the land from terrorists. What do they need to do Shamra? Rather, it says our job is to be in paradise and to do Torah and mitzvahs. That's why we were created. To work, say, represents the 248 commandments. And to protect the land. This means the 365 negative commandments. That was the purpose of creation. That's the whole reason and sole purpose of why God created the world, that we should follow the Torah. And furthermore, when we study Torah and we perform mitzvahs, not only are we fulfilling the purpose of creation, but we are drawing down into the world a higher level of light than was originally at the beginning of creation. As we stated earlier, God first contracted the light. That's called tzimtzum, the famous concept in Kabbalah called tzimtzum, the contraction of light. But we have now the ability to tap into and to access a level of light that preceded this tzimtzum and to bring this new light into the world, which is the purpose of creation. And furthermore, the objective of creation is, and this is the way it will be when Mashiach comes, that in this whole that God created, in this globe, in this ball, in this dark space that God created, this black space, we are going to have now the infinite light, the light that preceded the contraction, which is again a contradiction in terms, and that is really the objective of creation, that we should take the infinite and apply it to the finite. And that is the meaning of the very first Rashi in the Torah. That Torah really should have began with the first mitzvah of HaChodesh Hazeh, this month, alluding to the infinite and the finite. Why? Because the story of creation, God created the world, came about after the tzimtzum, after the contraction of light. And therefore the light was minimized, it was limited. But Torah is above creation, is beyond creation. And the objective is to draw light outside of creation. So therefore, we should have began the Torah with the objective, with the knowledge that we have the ability to draw into this finite world a light that is beyond world. Therefore, we should have began with the words, this is the new month. To tell us and to remind us and to encourage us and to empower us that each one of us has the duty, each one of us has the potential to access a light that is infinite. Think about it, it's unbelievable. We finite mortals who are so little compared to the entire universe, we have the absolute power that transcends the universe to bring a light and glory and energy into the world that is beyond creation. And that is why the Torah should have began with these words to empower us, to tell us, look guys, you can do it. You have the power. You can access this new light. Alluding to the light, to the energy that was created before the contraction of the universe, before Tzimtzum. Gimel. If that is the case, after this argument, that we should have began with the mitzvah of the calendar, the mitzvah of HaChodesh Hazeh, this month, the mitzvah that we have the potential to draw in the infinite light into the finite world, which is higher than creation. If that is the case, so why? So why then did we start with the words Bereshit? In the beginning, God created heaven and earth. The answer is because God wanted to give us ammunition. God wanted to give us strength and courage and pride to stand up against the nations of the world. In other words, that this concept of the strength that God gave us, in other words, the fact that God gave us strength to tell the nations of the world the truth, this level is higher than the light of infinity. Why? Because says the Rebbe, the reason is because the purpose of creation is not only to draw down the light that existed before creation, not only to draw down the infinite light that existed before Tzimtzum, before the contraction of the universe, but rather to create an Chodosh. We have the power to draw down an Chodosh, a new light, a light that never existed prior to us. In other words, tap into the essence of God, which is the infinite light, and this was a light that was not revealed before creation. In other words, we said earlier that before creation, God's light filled the entire world, filled the entire whole, filled the entire void. However, what was that light? That was only the infinite light, but it was not the light of Atzmos. It was not the essential light. It was not the essence of God. The essence of God did not fill this Mokoim HaCholol, this void space. But now we have the power. We have the ability to draw down not only the light that preceded creation, but also the light of Atzmos that was hidden inside God's secret chambers, which is the essential light of God himself. And to draw down this light, this is accomplished by the fact that we elevate the sparks. In other words, not only by doing mitzvahs, but primarily going into the everyday world and transforming the nations of the world, by transforming the mundane and making the mundane holy. That is the way we transform the world and we bring down this Chodosh, this new light that never existed in this void before creation. That's the meaning. That doesn't mean God gave us strength. God gave his creatures strength. To give them nachlas goyim. God wanted us to inherit the land of the nations. This concept means to take the land of the nations that became totally depraved, that was filled with darkness and sin and idolatry and promiscuity and inhumanity, and take these sparks that existed in this land and transform it to holiness. And this is the advantage of taking over and transforming the land of Canaan into the land of Israel over the first mitzvah of Achosh Elohim. Even though the first mitzvah talks about the unity of infinity and infinity together, which is the concept of intimacy, which is the purpose of the entire world, the purpose of creation, the purpose of Torah, yet that's not the ultimate purpose. The ultimate purpose is to draw down a higher light, a new light, a light that never existed, a light that was never here before. Because the accomplishment of this calendar, this idea of unifying the sun and the moon, unifying masculine and feminine, simply means to draw down the infinite light. For this light already really existed in this place. It was banished. but it was there already. And by doing Torah mitzvahs, we bring it back. Okay, but it's not something new. How do we bring down a new light into this place? How do we bring down Atzmos, the essence of God? That is through Averes HaBerurim, transformation of the secular, of the mundane, to make it holy. However, by elevating the sparks of the worldly reality, of the worldly sparks, that fell down. Mizayim Elohim, from the kings of impurity, Malchi Edom, the kings of Edom, which originally God gave the land to them. And they made the land more depraved. They took the land and took it down to a lower level through the promiscuity and through the violence and through the terrorism. And now we take back this land and we serve God with this land. This is the purpose of creation. This is elevating the sparks. And by elevating these sparks, by taking the lowest level, a level that God himself cannot create, and we elevate to God, this is the purpose of creation. It says in the Kabbalah that God created a world and he destroyed them. And the Jewish people elevate the sparks and they inherit them. In other words, they make it into the inheritance of Jacob. What does that mean? They're able to draw down into this world a new light, greater than the light that pre-existed creation, that originally filled this void, filled this black hole. And the way it is, this concept is in general, but in particular, this applies to the land of the seven nations, the land of Israel. And the Jewish people go there and they transform it, Eretz Yisrael, to a land of Israel, which means a land dedicated to serving Hashem. This is the ultimate purpose of creation. And behold, since God wanted to give it to them, this man Messiah for a particular time, was in order that he should take it from them and give it to us. We understand that if a Jew makes a strong resolve, it's then easy to conquer the land of the seven nations. And furthermore, and to transform the entire world. That the world should be a dwelling place for God. And the fact that it seems that needs tremendous toil and hardship and work. And the fact that it looks to be so difficult. And the fact that every step of the way, the nations of the world are telling us you are thieves, you are liars, you are aggressors. And it lacks the knowledge, the acknowledgement in the entire world that God is truly the master of the world. It's God's world. He created the world. It belongs to him. And even though there's a concealment, where is God? Where was God? Where was God in the Holocaust? Where was God in the first few days when Sderot was attacked by the terrorists? Where was God? People ask the question. They asked me the question. Rabbi, God was on vacation. Where was he? This is the purpose, as Eden, those Zuchin and Gafinin, because God wants Jews to search out God and to find God. And everything that we do. The stadium, and even in the darkest places, to find that say God is there too. God is not only in the synagogue. God is not only in your home. He's also in prison. God is also in tunnels. God is also in dark places. We need to find God there. We need to search God there. Like a father who plays hide and seek with his child. In order that the child to become smarter and see out the father. The whole purpose of God hiding is that the child to say, Daddy, where are you? I'm looking for you. Where are you? And find the father. Sometimes God conceals himself. The Jewish people should say, God, where are you? Where were you? I want you. I love you. I need you. And Torah promises, when the Jewish people truly search for God, surely you will find him. That you were going to conquer the entire world, make the entire world a dwelling place for God. As the prophet tells us, that all the nations of the world will change their language. They'll change their vernacular. They'll change their politics. They'll change the way they speak. And all of them together will come, will come to serve God. They'll come together into the Holy Temple, and they will all serve God with one language, and to God will be the ultimate kingship. The final verse, the final chapter, and all of this can be connected to the following, and that is after the holidays of Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, and Sukkot. Yaakov continues to go on his path. That is the official terminology that this time of year is called, right after Simchas Torah, especially right after Shabbos Berashit. Yaakov, the Jewish people, begin to go on their journey. In other words, in the time of the Beis Hamikdash, they all traveled to Israel. And now they had to go back home. So Jacob is now going on his path. Even though he's going on his path, he's leaving the Beis Hamikdash, he's leaving the month of holidays, he's now going into a world of secular and modern and mundane. He's going to such a world. He's not afraid of the world. He goes with security. He goes with trust and security. Even though he's going to the everyday world and dealing with non-Jewish people and non-Jewish countries and doing business with people who are not Torah observant. Still no, he goes with security and trust, with joy and gladness of heart. And it's also the meaning why Saturday night. And that is why in the liturgy that is recited Saturday night, it states, Al Tira Abdi Yaakov, do not be afraid, my servant Jacob. And this is said on Saturday night, after Shabbos with the shul, Shabbos with the Torah. Saturday night, we go back into the everyday world, we say, Al Tira Abdi Yaakov, do not fear my servant Jacob. Why? Shabbos, Mistaldekes, Haneshama, you say, Rabbi Sarah Lazar, related to Bechinas Yaakov. Avdi, V'chol sheizimei ma'aser levare berudim b'biyah. Lakach im Al Tira Abdi Yaakov related sham. Why is this recited Saturday night? Because it was specifically Saturday night that we lose our additional soul, our neshama yisera, which is one of the reasons why we smell the spices, the psalmim, the incense Saturday night, because this has to revive us after we lose this special holy soul that was given to us on Shabbos. In other words, we are now falling spiritually from this high level back down, and we're tumbling into the world. So our sages say, Al Tira Abdi Yaakov, do not be afraid, my servant Jacob. Even though you're tumbling back into the everyday mundane world, the work world, the mundane world, still know your job is there to elevate those sparks, and you're going to do it because you have the power. And therefore this gives him strength to be able to accomplish his mission. Similarly, after the month of Tishrei, after all these holidays, we are now afraid to go into the everyday world, especially our brothers and sisters in Israel. We are afraid to go into foreign territory. Why should we not be afraid? It's very simple. God, your Lord, is with you. Every Jew, even a Jew who's on the level of Yaakov. Yaakov represents a lower level. Israel is a higher level. Israel represents Torah and mitzvahs and Shabbos. Yaakov represents the heel, which is every day, the mundane. Even if you're Yaakov. God, your Lord, is with you. Furthermore, not only is God with you, but you can become a partner with God in creation of the universe. By the fact that you do mitzvahs and you study Torah, and now you create a novelty in the world. By the fact that we are in the everyday secular world. And to underscore that the avodas habidurim, this idea we call the avodah, the service of bidurim, of elevation of the sparks, is primarily not by those people who study Torah all day, yeshiva students or kollel younger light, but it's primarily by business people who go into the everyday world and deal with mundane physical things. There is the ultimate elevation of the sparks. And going to the everyday world and being honest and being ethical and using the opportunity to bring the knowledge of God and the acknowledgement of God into your success. This is called the elevation of the sparks. We are able to make we're able to make the world once and for all, to rid the world of terrorism, to rid the world of darkness, to rid the world of impurity and injustice, and make the world a dwelling place for God. You are now creating a new level of light in the world that never existed. You are creating a novelty, the ultimate chidush, the ultimate newness in the world. That is why in Shabbos Bereshis we read the Torah, the first Shabbos of the year. We read the Parsha. Bereshis bara likim eis hashemayim v'eis haaretz. We read how in the beginning God created heaven and earth. Shaydei zenase b'rias hashemayim v'haaretz v'chol tzvayim v'chodosh u'beifin chodosh. And the fact that we read this parsha anew each year, this makes the world anew. It creates a new world because Torah dictates reality, and therefore by reading Bereshis bara likim, God created the universe. This is not something that we read the story of the past, but we're saying this is happening right now. God is creating a new world. So every year it's a new world, and a higher world, and a better world. To a degree that we will truly literally see and point with our fingers, look at the new heaven, look at the new earth. As it says in the prophecy of Yeshaya Navi, in chapter number 66, that one day we will see very soon the new heaven and the new earth, the revelation of Mashiach, peace in Israel, protection to our soldiers. And remember, this war is an internal war. It's about bringing godliness to ourselves. It's about acknowledging God in everything that we do. It's about elevating all the sparks in our life. And by doing so, we will bring true peace, not only to Israel, but to all the nations of the world. As we said earlier, that all of them will speak one language. All of them will walk and flow towards the holy temple. And God will become La Hashem Amlucha. God will be king. God will be the king upon the entire earth. Hashem echad u'shmo echad. God will be one and his name will be one.